And whatever it tells us, the countdown. I trust the countdown. I trust StreamYard. First and foremost, Bloom, before we start the show, I mean, StreamYard, an incredible product. Any YouTuber out there,
Yeah.
anyone that wants to start a content creator and have a YouTube show, what have you, I've told everyone I know, StreamYard. I know at our radio station, 104 Through the Fan of Denver, I was like, let's get a StreamYard account because now you can broadcast to multiple platforms at once, up to 5 with a professional account. So, like, I just got to give it up to StreamYard, Bloom, before we jump into the show because they've been awesome for what we do with this show.
Well, yeah, and as far as I know, Cease, unless you're not cutting me in, they're not paying us or encouraging us to say this. We're just genuinely thankful because and some of the things like adding the comments to the screen as we're doing this live is fantastic because we're all about community and this show's for everybody listening, not just for us. So that's been really fun to have that. It's been seamless. And I know sometimes when we mention the tools and things that help us make the show, it's not always, although we appreciate all the help of technology and the people out there working hard to allow us to just talk and have the world be able to hear us. StreamYard has been wonderful. And certainly anybody out there, it really sees, I could go off on a tangent here of how the barriers to entry have been broken down. When we were kids and we would walk around and pretend we were sportscasters, there was only one way to speak into the microphone and have it boom so that other people could hear you. It was just a few outlets, a few national and local outlets. And now we can all reach the world. And a lot of people out there have something to say, and I'm glad they're getting a chance to say it.
Well, and I love the fact that a small independent company has created a product that was way better than anything Google ever had for us. And that's very telling also, by the way, but that's another podcast, another longer conversation. And here we go. It is week 6. It is our part 1 preview show of the week 6 matchups here on the Audible, and another Thursday night game that's interesting on one side anyway. Giants at the Patriots, and who the hell's going to be playing for the Giants?
Right.
Everyone's hurt or banged up, and problems are bound for Daniel Jones. So really, when we look at this, I mean, Golden Tate, Darius Slayton, I mean, Evan Ingram banged up, Saquon Barkley banged up, Wayne Gallman banged up, Sterling Shepard banged up. Did I miss anybody, Bloom?
No. And look, this is going to be a rough time for old Daniel Jones. Let's just give him a pass in this one, okay? It's going to be a really difficult night for him, and they're doing the right thing by not bringing back Saquon Barkley. So, Cease, really the Giant side is maybe Golden Tate in PPR, maybe Darius Slayton as a deep what the heck flex because he has that chemistry. And I guess, you know, it's funny because we look, Cease, at the New England defensive stats to this point, and they're already comparing them to, 2000 Ravens and things like that, from 85 Bears. But they have faced one-armed Ben Roethlisberger, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Luke Falk, Josh Allen, and Matt Barkley. And then last week it was Colt McCoy. Is Daniel Jones kind of an upgrade? Well, not with nobody in the passing game and the running game that is even baseline NFL starter talent outside of Golden Tate. So unfortunately, this is probably, let's put it this way, if it is a close game at all, because the sad thing, Cease, is it kind of overshadows New England and the Giants. That's a great Super Bowl times 2. And it might not be a great Thursday night game.
Yeah, and New England side of things, well, they'll basically be able to do whatever they want. I guess they're fine with their tight ends. That's the most interesting news item for me for the week for the Patriots so far. It's like, all right, Ben Watson not there anymore. Okay, well, and in this contest, again, Bloom, it's like it could be a little of everybody, including James White and all the names we already know that already frustrate us. And in this easier type of matchup, well, it's gold for everybody. Does Josh Gordon have a big game finally? That's another question on my mind.
Well, because the Giants' pass defense is pretty easy to solve, okay? So, obviously, it's a Tom Brady night, and Sony Michel finally got on track, no matter how many men there were in the box facing him. So, he's back in. James White has given us that nice 10 to 12 PPR floor. maybe he gets a touchdown here, maybe a little more with Rex Burkhead banged up. I don't think we're going to see Rex Burkhead on a short week. Will we see Damian Harris? I'm not holding out hope anymore. I know, Cease, we have to come up with a new term. It's like blooming, but something else. Like once I actually give up hope on somebody, is the sign to go in and buy that player. But we'll see. But no Philip Dorsett. So, yes, it's a Josh Gordon night. There'll be one Janoris Jenkins lapse, right? Yes, it's Julian Edelman night. And we know that Brady's going to lean on Edelman. And Jacoby Myers is going to get more opportunity here. I think you're absolutely right. The most interesting thing here is Ben Watson not getting activated. $1.9 million. And Cease, we have to question, are they keeping that cap room for a bigger move coming at the trade deadline? And I know you're probably going to have to cover a lot of trade deadline talk, although Denver might go on a winning streak and mess that up.
Yeah, they're kind of sitting on their hands. That's a different topic. We'll get into that a little bit later, but we shall see. And by the way, Bloom, if it's opposite of blooming, shouldn't it be like wilting?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Desiccating.
But then it's like the phoenix rising
exactly.
again.
Okay. That's right. Dark Phoenix.
All right, let's get into. Oh, that's so awful movie. Terrible movie. Let's get into Sunday's matchups. And we got a London one, and it's an early one. Damn it. I liked when the London game was the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Because then it was like felt normal, and you didn't forget anything in your lineups because Carolina and Tampa Bay is at 7:30 in the morning. Now that's Mountain Time, the forgotten time zone. So 8:30 for you, 9:30 for folks on the East Coast, and 6:30 for people in the Pacific time zone. So Carolina side, all Christian McCaffrey as much as you possibly can against the Buccaneers. Todd Bowles going to try to shut that down, stop it, slow it down, what have you. Then how does Carolina counteract that if they do have to go away from McCaffrey? And he's going to need a breather because he can't do everything. He can do a lot, MVP-like performance so far, but he can't do everything. So what does that mean for a DJ Moore, a Curtis Samuel, a Greg Olsen, etc., as they're on the road in this NFC South showdown?
And a rematch, Cease, our first rematch of the year. And this was a Thursday night game, and it was a interesting Thursday night game, not a prolific one. It was the last time we saw Cam Newton, and maybe the next time we see Cam Newton will be on the other side of the bye. We'll watch that. But in the meantime, Kyle Allen does nothing but win. And he's been solid, maybe not so much for fantasy. Some of that's because Christian McCaffrey takes all the fantasy points for himself. Maybe we see a little more Reggie Bonifant. It is the bye next week. So I guess if they push McCaffrey again, then he gets a week to rest. Reggie Bonifant looked pretty good, though. And we also have the question of, is Tampa Bay's defense any good? We saw early on, and we saw what they did to Cam. Was it just that Cam was hurt? We saw what they did to San Francisco, although San Francisco could kind of coast because of the pick sixes by Winston. We saw what they did to the Rams. They got up 21-0, and then the Rams racked up points. And then last week, we saw Teddy Bridgewater have his breakout game. So could Kyle Allen have a little breakout? Where this really becomes important is, do you play DJ Moore? Certainly if you're going to play one of these receivers, you're going to play Moore over Samuel. But Curtis Samuel's getting open. Curtis Samuel still has it. It's just that the Panthers haven't had to stretch the field and take a lot of chances to win these games. So Samuel's in the what the heck flex territory because of his quality and the Tampa defense, and even Greg Olsen. Again, it's Tampa's defense. Jared Cook finally scored last week, so maybe Greg Olsen can too. But the interesting thing about this one, Cease, is when these teams played the first time, we thought, well, geez, maybe Bruce Arians can make this team a contender. Peyton Barber running guys over, running out the clock, making the stand, Cam Newton looking feeble. And all of a sudden, where's the Panther season going without Cam Newton? And these two team seasons have kind of gone in opposite directions since then, or at the very least, we feel how the Bucs are coming in now. So these divisional matchups can sometimes spin these teams and coming out a different direction than what they were coming in. And then we have the London factor. So this one's kind of unpredictable.
Yeah, it is unpredictable. And, Chris Godwin, not unpredictable. You're throwing him in your lineup. It's been fantastic and amazing. Mike Evans bounced back this week. He will. And you have Mike Evans, so stop complaining and don't take that low ball offer that you were offered in your league because Mike Evans didn't have a catch. So he'll bounce back. I don't trust the backfield, even though we kind of thought we saw Ronald Jones emerge, and then it wasn't. And, I love Peyton Barber as a guy. Don't love him as a fantasy asset, so I'm not trusting that. Jameis Winston, trust. O.J. Howard, fantasy champs have already dumped him. So what do we do now? I still believe in Evans. Obviously, Godwin's going to do his thing, but outside of that, Bloom, questions abound.
Yeah, they do, because Evans in this one, the first time around, had 4 for 61. We'll see if Dante Jackson is back. I would imagine James Bradbury will be on Evans anyway. I think that's the better matchup in terms of the strengths of Bradbury's game and the strengths of Evans' game. Chris Godwin, yes. Chris Godwin, if you drafted him, you're loving it. And even though one of the touchdowns was garbage time, who cares? The big story here, though, and why you have to like the Panthers defense, the right side of the Tampa line. Alex Kappa played with a broken arm. Kappa's got great hair, by the way, really underrated hair. And DeMar Dotson, who got pushed around, the one arm pushed by Marcus Davenport, UT San Antonio in the house. He's hurt. So the right side, and the Panthers pass rush, and Panthers don't have Kawan Short, but the Panthers pass rush, the Panthers front seven has been outstanding this year, making plays, forcing turnovers. They scored a touchdown. Brian Burns got a touchdown last week against Gardner Minshew. They could be teeing off on Jameis Winston. They could be forcing some interceptions. We could see some pick sixes here. So OJ Howard or Cameron Brate, you probably dropped OJ Howard. And see, did you see at the baseball game? I know baseball. OJ Howard made this amazing one-handed catch. Did you see it?
You know how that answer ends. Did you see the baseball game?
I'm just saying that to troll everybody in fantasy, I've drafted OJ Howard in a few important leagues like the Scott Fish Bowl, and he made this amazing one-handed catch of a foul ball in that game. But he's not catching passes for our fantasy teams. Ronald Jones, Peyton Barber, they're going to keep going with a hot hand in a game where you think maybe Tampa could control it. You're going to dabble in this. I don't know. Not against Carolina without the right side of their offensive line. So Bruce Arians, what are you going to do? I mean, you win a big divisional game on the road. This is technically a home game for them, even though it's in London. This is a big one because otherwise you could really see, they lose to New Orleans and in a pretty, I don't want to say shameful. They shouldn't have shame in it, but they weren't really in that game. They need to stay in this game, or all of a sudden the talk of Bruce Arians making this franchise respectable, not happening.
The only thing I think of when I think of Chris Godwin, Bloom.
What's that?
He broke the heart of one of my better friends. I know his college girlfriend from Penn State, and she's outstanding young woman. And it wasn't anything like a bad breakup or anything. It's just wish that wouldn't worked out, God, broken hearts, love abounds. Let's move on in that one, and we'll talk about Seattle and Cleveland. Hey, regular time. This one in Cleveland and this one with Seattle. Now, Rashad Penny not getting much work yet. We'll see if that increases this week. It should still be Chris Carson leading the way there, but we'll see if Penny can get worked in a little bit more than he was last time out. Tyler Lockett, can you do what you did earlier, please? I'm going to break off a Martin Lawrence reset there and be like, just do it again, please, Tyler Lockett. It's outstanding. I'd like to see more from DK Metcalf. Will Dissly is your starter. If we're looking for tight end help and you got him, you can plug him in and trust him, just like Russell Wilson against a Browns team that is reeling. And here comes Seattle to further kick them while they're down.
Seattle on the road, they went into Pittsburgh and won. This team, it's so odd that they played Cincinnati so close in week one. They barely beat them up in Seattle. I don't know if Cleveland's any good. I don't think the AFC North is good. That's really the takeaway here. I don't think the AFC North is very good this year. Russell Wilson's on fire. You're not going to put him out of your lineup unless it's for Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. I think at this point, maybe in the matchup this week, Matt Ryan, Chris Carson running with purpose. And we saw what Matt Breida and Tevin Coleman were able to do. And it just fits right into what Seattle wants to do. You're going to take their will away, give Chris Carson another 25 carries and let him run with that undeniable desire. Tyler Lockett's a virtuoso. Forget about the fan. We're playing him every week in fantasy, but it's really beautiful to see, especially he suffered a really serious leg injury a few years ago. And it's really beautiful to see when we see these players not only get everything back, but pick up their career development where they left off. And he's peaking for our fantasy lineups. DK Metcalf, you're seeing some Jerron Brown, you're seeing some David Moore. So Metcalf's more of what the heck flex, but you are seeing them use Metcalf for what he can do well. It is the Cleveland secondary. It is a Cleveland team that is humiliated right now, but they're only one game out of first. And they beat the team handily that is ahead of them in first place. So it's been a crazy up and down year for Cleveland. Is there another up here, or does Seattle keep them down?
Does Seattle keep them down, or does Baker the baby maker, I don't know, start making his own decisions?
Right.
Like, he's made some really bad decisions with the football. That's been his MO this season, even win or loss. So how does that change? Do they just rely on Nick Chubb even more so? I know Odell Beckham Jr.'s fantasy GMs are like, oh my God, I thought it was going to be better than this. So the assets are there. We'll see if Rashard Higgins comes back. Assets are there, just the combination, the puzzle pieces haven't been put together correctly.
Yeah, Mayfield is not the player to create on his own outside of structure. And also, Mayfield is not the player to have a suspect offensive line around. He's not Andrew Luck, early career Andrew Luck, right? He's not someone that you just drop in and say, you make it work, make it happen, or Deshaun Watson. He's not going to be that player that's going to find ways to overcome some of the deficiencies of his offense, not to mention the deficiencies with the play calling, with the scheme, setting him up to fail. Seattle's defense isn't that good. We would look at this matchup and say, ooh, maybe Mayfield. I don't know. I mean, in 2 quarterback superflex leagues with 4 teams on bye, I guess you have to play Mayfield. But things are better for Mayfield when they take things off of his plate and put it on Nick Chubb's plate. And maybe what we have here is 30 carries for Carson and 30 carries for Nick Chubb. Just body blow, body blow, body blow. You're going to leave Odell Beckham in. He's going to get going eventually. But just know this. After Cleveland's bye, they go to their bye next week. New England, then you're going to get to maybe interview Baker Mayfield or something. See, says they're going to come to Denver in week 9 and then Buffalo. So you really want to see Odell Beckham and this offense get something going. But at the very least, you pray for rational coaching during the bye, and they can see how they've been setting Baker Mayfield up for failure. Now he's starting to see ghosts. At least Jarvis Landry is maintaining somewhat of a high floor with defenses having to account for Beckham. Rashard Higgins can't get healthy. And Antonio Callaway can't make plays. They're missing David Njoku. You're queasy if you're a Browns fan right now. But at the same time, if they can win this game against a legitimate opponent at home, stay within 1 game, Baltimore, go into the bye, take a deep breath, collect yourself, see what this season holds, because it has held some excellent highs, but some really humiliating lows for this team.
What kind of steel are you made of?
Yeah.
We'll find out. Cleveland, Houston, and Kansas City. Bloom. This show's probably going to run, well, I'm chatty today, so over half an hour. But, this is the show we could do a whole hour on. I mean, this is fascinating, especially Kansas City at home, coming off that loss to Indianapolis. Houston coming in after dropping a 50-burger. So, Houston against the KC defense, I love it all. Duke Johnson Jr., well, what the heck flex if not more? Regular flex. Carlos Hyde, like a running back 3, running back 2 upside there. And then, of course, those amazing wide receivers and Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins. We're watching the health status of Kenny Stills this week. There's your guy, Kiki Cutie. What the heck flex or more? And then all gets back to Deshaun Watson. This could be, AFC Championship preview? A divisional round preview. This is going to be an awesome game. Will the fantasy points be there for the Texans?
It should be all the points, right? I mean, this is a game. I don't know what the over-under is. I don't know what your DFS lineups look like, but they should have pieces of this game. On the Houston side, Deshaun Watson is hitting his stride. I don't think that Kansas City is really going to be able to slow him down. Will Fuller's hitting his stride. Nuke Hopkins is due for a get-right game. But you do wonder, Bill O'Brien, and he's not someone we can always count on for rational coaching. You saw Marlon Mack run the ball 29 times. And so it's, on one hand, you say Indy was smart because they had Jacoby Brissett and they want to shorten the game. They want to keep the clock running. They want to grind out long drives. They want to keep Kansas City's defense on the field and Patrick Mahomes on the sidelines. Now, Houston has Deshaun Watson, but I don't know that you want Deshaun Watson out there dropping back, scrambling with his never say die attitude, taking a lot of hits. I do think we saw for a stretch last year that Houston's offensive line, while suspect as a pass blocking unit, was not bad as a run blocking unit. Remember, Lamar Miller got hot in the middle of the season. I'm not saying Carlos Hyde's going to get hot, but a rational game plan here would be establishing Carlos Hyde, getting him to 20 carries, and keeping the Kansas City defense on the field and Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. So Hyde's a what the heck flex. Duke Johnson a perpetual what the heck flex, because anybody can watch him and say he's good at football, but Bill O'Brien, even though Bill O'Brien, the GM, spent a fourth, now we're halfway there for him to be a third round pick cost now. If he's active in 10 games, he's still just a what the heck flex. If this does turn into the shootout, then Duke Johnson could be a what the heck flex that really hits. We'll watch Kenny Stills, see if his hamstring is ready. Of course, he gives them more of a vertical element from that number 3 receiver. Kiki Cutie that we saw that run after catch. Again, whoever it is, if it's Stills, I'm probably not going to play him because of the risk of re-injury. But if Stills is out, Cutie becomes an interesting what the heck flex, an interesting low-owned DFS player because of the opportunity. But then you have the tight ends. Darren Fells throws in a touchdown or two here and there. Jordan Akins throws in a big play here and there. So that's lowering the ceiling and making it so fewer of these players go off in any given week. But there's obviously the weapons around Deshaun Watson to keep up with Patrick Mahomes if the offensive line can help him. The Kansas City defense, Chris Jones is hurt. Xavier Williams is hurt. Frank Clark hasn't been doing it. We haven't been seeing a lot of impact plays from Okafor or Ogba. So this certainly feels like a game where the offenses will dictate what happens, not the defenses.
Yeah, and we get to the Kansas City side. Mitch, any word on Watkins' hammy? Not only that, but also the Mahomes ankle thing, which I've heard described as a high ankle sprain, which if that is the case, then that's bad. And it started with Jacksonville, by the way. Jacksonville in the opener was the team that was like twisting his ankle and like banging him up. And then you saw the Colts continue that. And by the way, Bloom, with Bill O'Brien, you know what he's going to try to do.
What?
We can go toe to toe. You should run the ball. Run Bill O'Brien, Mr. Unhinged. Run the ball. Anyway, so Kansas City side, we know the names, but you're looking at now Byron Pringle differently. If you have McCole Hardman and DeMarcus Robinson, you're like, oh. And then, of course, we're watching for Sammy's hammy in this one. And then the backfield, LaShawn McCoy getting benched for pass pro issues, even though he had the fumble. That's what Andy Reid said. So now the backfield even more of a jumbled mess with Damian Williams and McCoy, etc. You're starting Mahomes, and you're hoping and you're praying that ankle's okay.
So they're not going to tell us how bad his ankle is, right? I mean,
no.
And you have, and I want to say, Cecil, one of the members of Cobra Kai, the actor, I can't remember his name now, just died last week. So I want to say rest in peace.
Yeah, the guy that said, get him a body bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that guy and his family and people that loved him that we aren't remembering his name right now. I'll look it up during the next take so we can say his name. Because when I say sweep the leg, I want to say, sweep the leg. I mean, you go after that ankle. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is, when he's making these plays, I think he has to physically be right. And I don't know that he is. The other thing we're going to watch here is there a blueprint? Mahomes has thrown 8 touchdowns against zone, 1 against man. Do we see Tyreek Hill come back? Because if there's no Tyreek Hill, then you can probably get away with playing zone. If there is Tyreek Hill, playing zone becomes a little more, man becomes a little more dangerous. So that's going to be something to watch here. Obviously, if Tyreek Hill's on the field, especially against this Houston secondary, you're going to play him. If Tyreek Hill's not on the field, Pringle, DeMarcus Robinson, McCole Hardman, they're all what the heck flexes with high ceilings, but at the same time, low floors with Mahomes in a slump. And then again, that actual explanation of his ankle. And you got JJ Watt out there that's going to mess with things. And I even thought, watching Travis Kelce on Sunday night, he's getting up a little slow, having the ball knocked out of his hands a little more than usual.
Dropping passes, pushing passes. Which, if you know Eric Bieniemy, like, dude, what are you thinking, Kelce? Don't ever shove EB. Yeah, that's the last guy you want to shove.
So I'm not. Yeah, it was strange. And I'm not saying bench Travis Kelce. I'm not even saying sell Travis Kelce high, because if this offense can get everybody back on the field, and I don't think we're going to see Sammy Watkins. And even if we do, we know we're not going to. If he's active, we're not going to play him. We're not going to get tricked again. If he has a great game, that's good news, even if he was on your bench. But I wonder if Kelce, it's the Gronkowski syndrome, and he did have microfracture early in his career, and he had ankle surgery in the offseason. But they're such big targets to hit. They take so much punishment. I remember there was a stage of Calvin Johnson's career leading up to his retirement where you watched him and he was taking so many big hits every week, putting it on the line for the team. So I'm just going to watch that. The running back shuffle, it does make it difficult. if one running back's getting half the snaps and two other running backs are each getting a quarter of the snaps, and this offense isn't as productive as it usually is, then are you starting any of them? I still think that you got to play Damian Williams because of what he can do in the passing game. And it would make sense to me if Mahomes can't make his magic outside of the pocket. You just do a lot more of these plays where you get the running back in space in a good matchup. You get a matchup with Bernard McKinney or something like that, so that then you can make some things happen with Damian Williams in the passing game. So I'm probably sticking with him. And I think rational coaching, I would say Andy Reid's in the top 5 or 6, as long as we're not talking clock management, that I will count on for rational coaching. Rational coaching is that LaShawn McCoy is the best running back on this team between the tackles. I hope we see LaShawn McCoy become the primary running back in the running game. And then there's still Darrell Williams. As you pointed out, Cease, maybe Darrell Williams is the best running back between the tackles. He might be the best all-around back and certainly can offer more than just being an in case of an injury emergency play. So we'll continue to watch this. I think Damian Williams is the only safe play, and this could continue to be something in motion. This is a really fascinating game, Cease, because it was Sunday night and we had to turn the page to Monday night and had that laugher as Cleveland got embarrassed and San Francisco showed, it's not necessarily a joke that we're undefeated at this point in the season, even though we haven't really played any of the top teams yet. But there was a ripple, as you alluded to. This could be an AFC Championship preview. I mean, the AFC's wide open for Houston. If you can go into Kansas City and win, ask Indianapolis in your own division, then you feel like you can win anywhere against anybody. So this is going to be a really exciting game.
I don't want to speak this into existence, Bloom, but you're wearing a Ghostbuster shirt.
Yeah.
Because we always talk about the ankle with Pat Mahomes, right? Oh, the ankle. That's cool. That's a very valid conversation. Here's what I'm most worried about.
Yeah.
I don't want him to ever start seeing ghosts.
Sure. Like Patrick Mahomes
like
Baker Mayfield is right now.
Well, yeah. And like Patrick Mahomes could, because, okay, you man him up. Right. And hey, Tyreek Hill, super fast. Awesome. But if you're punishing your quarterback, if you're hitting your quarterback, pressure makes every quarterback look mortal. Every quarterback. Revolutionize. Yeah. You get hit a few times and it's going to change you. I hope it doesn't change Pat Mahomes, Bloom. I hope he doesn't start seeing ghosts.
I hope not either. And I mean, I think he's fine. I mean, we're getting off on a little Thursday night topic here. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be fine because I really do believe he doesn't just play in the eye of the storm. See, he lives in the eye of the storm. I mean, this is one of the coolest customers we have ever seen at quarterback.
He's also starting to complain a little bit more, like when he's looking back at the refs and stuff like dude, just play your game.
It's true.
Stop worrying about where's my flag. And I love Pat Mahomes, but there's certain things where it's like, oh, you get a little don't do that.
Maybe he's feeling the pressure.
In the eye in the storm.
Maybe he's feeling the amount that's on his shoulders. But when you were talking about that, Robert Griffin III pops into my head, right? Because we all had that moment in the playoff game. We thought, get him out. And he was never the same. That's more Rocky, right? Throw the damn towel. But even Griffin, you could go back and watch at Baylor and see that he was a rushed thinker. He was a frantic thinker sometimes under pressure. I've never seen that with Patrick Mahomes. If anything, he's too casual, just like Minshew. He's too casual. You want to tell him, your life is on the line out there. But you're right to watch how all of this struggle, because we haven't really seen Patrick Mahomes have to struggle like he has to right now, especially getting over an injury, altering his game. See, this is something that all great NFL quarterbacks have to do, is play an adapted game, whether it's your offensive line getting hurt or some of your targets getting hurt or you're hurt. Sometimes you have to rub two sticks together. And even Peyton Manning, we saw winning the Super Bowl, that last one with Denver, altering his game to fit what he was capable of doing at that point in his career. So it's going to be something interesting to watch.
And fooling defenses about how much he was capable of doing, because it wasn't a lot. Sorry, Peyton, I love you, but wow. All right, we're talking more about that game, Bloom, because it's Washington and Miami up next.
No.
Do the Dolphins actually get the win? And here's what I'm going to do. Just shove it like a big dump truck. I'm just going to dump it all on you because I'm actually more excited. Like the coaches are talking about Mark Walton a little bit more, right? Yeah. I'm always watching Preston Williams, right? I don't give a damn about Washington, but Washington, Miami, I'm giving you both teams, brother. Let's just talk about this and move on.
Well, and again, in a week that we have the Giants in New England, rematch of two of the most excellent Super Bowls, Washington, Miami was a good Super Bowl. Was that the strike season, Cease? That was the Super Bowl of the strike season, right? Because it was,
I believe so, yeah.
It was. I think it was the year that
it was Marino's second year, so
yeah, I think
84.
I think I could be wrong. Although it could be also that could also be the Steelers went to Miami and lost in the AFC title game. Anyway, John Riggins. It was one of my Eric Stoner and I got to mention Eric Stoner every show by law. We were talking about like our first football memories, right? The first thing you remember. I can remember the Kellen Winslow game. I can remember the catch. I certainly remember John Riggins. I was really excited about that. And around Pittsburgh parts, we rooted against Dan Marino. I mean, he turned from Mr. Touchdown to Mr. Interception. There was a lot of stuff behind the scenes now, I think. And that John Riggins run, I want to talk about that. And John Riggins, I didn't even realize as a young whippersnapper how long he'd been around and how much he had done. And see, so we would have like the 1970s John Riggins. He had like a mohawk and was just a wild man. Speaking of our colleague,
that was Jets John Riggins.
Yeah. So worst game ever. I mean, see, since there've been in the 13, 14 years we've been doing this, have we ever previewed a worse game than this game? I don't think so. It's going to probably decide the number one pick. Cincinnati says we're still here, but probably going to decide the number one pick. Terry McLaurin, I expect he's going to see some Xavier Howard. Adrian Peterson is a what the heck flex because Bill Callahan wants to establish the run, and he should be able to. Chris Thompson is good for his 8 to 10 PPR points. Maybe if you really are digging deep, Paul Richardson or a Trey Quinn, but you're also counting on Colt McCoy. We'll see when we see Dwayne Haskins because it was the owner that wanted Haskins, not the coach, and now the coach is gone. On the Miami side, Rosen. I think Rosen very quietly is showing two things that we've been looking for from him. One is that he's still a good natural passer. And the other is that despite the situation he's in, give up all hope, abandon hope, all ye who enter, like should be above the Dolphins building, right? He's still playing his heart out. I mean, he's out there laying it on the line every week. He is definitely, and it's drops and other things that have let him down. But even with those drops, Preston Williams is a what the heck flex. And Devontae Parker, who had a long touchdown in the game before the bye, and Kenyon Drake, who we'll see less of Kalen Ballage, more of Mark Walden. As you said, the Hurricanes standout, and I'm trying to become the Dolphins standout. Maybe Albert Wilson will be ready to play. I don't know. We'll see about that. If Wilson isn't ready to play, that helps the case of a Preston Williams, of a Devontae Parker in this one. So, yeah, number one pick probably on the line. So that is kind of a big deal, even though this game is going to be some bad football.
Let's talk Philadelphia, Minnesota. Better football. This one up in the frozen tundra of Minnesota. And Philadelphia's side, well, rational coaching abounds when we talk about Doug Peterson. Thank you, by the way, Doug Peterson. Watching Deshaun Jackson's status, Bloom gives an update there. If we know, again, we're recording on Wednesday morning, full disclosure, so we're watching injury reports there. So we know, Alshon Jeffrey to do his thing, and I've always Zach Ertz, right? And now more Jordan now featuring more Jordan Howard. Awesome. It's also a tough matchup against a Vikings defense that can get after you. So which Eagles assets are you looking to in week 6?
This is a big game. This is a really big game. See, this is the kind of game that in December, late December, when we're going down and looking at the playoff picture in the NFC, and we see how it shakes out, whether it's a question of division winners. I mean, the NFC North has 4 teams with winning records right now. So again, we're going to look at the NFC, maybe having 7, 8 playoff worthy teams, and only 6 of them get to go. This game could be the game that determines which one of these teams stays home and which one of them goes to the playoffs. And they're both at crossroads in a way, although Philadelphia may get Deshaun Jackson back. If they do, obviously, we're getting back that offense that we were envisioning with this great offensive line, with Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders, not Terrence Sproles, who's a little banged up, with Ertz and Goddard and Aguilar and Jeffrey. How do you match up with these guys? Even without Deshaun Jackson, I still think you're going to see Ertz, a lot of Ertz. You're going to see a lot of Howard. And Howard has had some days against the Vikings in the past with the Bears. He's had some 100-yard days, 130-yard days. I think maybe even 150-yard day. So, and this defense has always been good. So it's not a question. In week 17 last year, he had 109 and 2 touchdowns against them, okay? You can go back to 2016 in his rookie year. He had 26 for 153 and a touchdown and 4 for 49 in that game and a win. And then he had 23 for 135. It was a blowout loss in week 17, but he's run well against this Minnesota defense. So you like Jordan Howard, especially as he's getting the endorsement of his coaches. And you want Miles Sanders involved as a receiver downfield. That's when he's been doing his damage. Maybe against these corners, Alshon Jeffrey, not as good of a play. Maybe you just say, hey, Xavier Rhodes cancels him out. We'll take that. Aguilar has been falling off a little bit. I think that Philly might try to play Minnesota style game here and play more balance and not leave Carson Wentz out there to take a lot of hits. We saw it work against Green Bay, who also has a tough defense. Run at them. Don't go with the strength of that pass defense. Don't let the pass rush tee off. So it'll be interesting to see how another coach that we like for rational coaching. Of course, if Doug Peterson comes from the Andy Reid tree, Doug Peterson with some rational coaching, starting with installing Jordan Howard as that lead back in the running game.
Well, starting with Minnesota, wow, are they really going to pass more? Is that now a thing? It still featured Dalvin Cook plenty and a dash of Alexander Madison to make our hearts sing. But is Kirk Cousins really going to throw more? Did they, tear off the seal? Did they break the seal now? And Adam Thielen's going to be fine, and Stephon Diggs is going to be okay enough. Not what we thought he would be, but is that now do you have confidence that will continue now, especially this week against Philadelphia?
Right. Rational coaching would dictate here that you don't take the bull by the horns. You don't run at the Philly run defense. You pass at those corners, at the ragtag corners that they have. You use Adam Thielen and Diggs. Obviously, you're going to play Thielen. Maybe this could be a Diggs game if you do what they did last week and come out passing. Kirk Cousins can make those throws and can make those completions with these good receivers. But how stubborn will they be? You're still playing Dalvin Cook, but no, this is a very tough matchup for that Minnesota running game. And Minnesota is a team that we can look at this year and say, are they good? Are they a good team? I don't know. I mean, they beat the Giants. They really thumped Oakland, and Oakland looks like a good team, so maybe that means something. And they beat Atlanta. Atlanta's not a good team. They were pretty much outclassed by Green Bay and Chicago. Now on the road in divisional games. So this is a good yardstick game for a team that is week 6 and we haven't figured out yet. So unlike some of the other early game slates we've had, Cease, this one I think only has 7 or 8 games. But Houston, Kansas City, we've got Minnesota and Philadelphia. We've got some really good games going on. Even the New Orleans Jacksonville game, which we haven't really talked about, but that'll be in part 2. The 2 storybook quarterbacks. Really looking forward to this early slate.
Actually, I think it's in part 1 because we got 7 games to do and our last game to do. I'm just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, New Orleans and Jacksonville. Final game we're going to talk about in part 1 of the Week 6 preview here on the Audible. And there's New Orleans. Now on the road, Bloom, that seems to be a little bit different without Drew Brees. But here we go. Is it as simple as giving Alvin Kamara the Christian McCaffrey workload? And he had over 100 all-purpose yards last week against Tampa Bay, 104. Does he have 200 this week? Should he? Should that be the mindset? Obviously, Michael Thomas, you're starting. Teddy Bridgewater, you're streaming. You're considering that and start 2 QB leagues. But how are the Saints going to respond now on the road against Jacksonville, who just couldn't stop Christian McCaffrey? Well, Alvin Kamara is pretty McCaffrey-like. Wouldn't mind seeing him getting a McCaffrey-like workload.
2 of the best stories in the league with these quarterbacks, Minshew and Bridgewater. And just another reminder that anything can happen in an NFL season, and it is a quarterback-centric league. That's why quarterback wins is a stat. Teddy, we saw Louisville Teddy last week. And will Jalen Ramsey play? If Jalen Ramsey's not playing, then obviously that gives an advantage where Teddy creeps back into that quarterback 2 superflex high-end range, maybe even a streamer here. Does Alvin Kamara do his Christian McCaffrey impression this week? Because we saw McCaffrey get as much work as he can handle and really make the Jacksonville defense just ran them ragged. I mean, just made them look incapable of slowing him down. Is that Alvin Kamara this week? We saw Michael Thomas. No one could slow him down. This is going to, I think that Teddy is establishing. The important thing is, Cecil put out there, they found their quarterback. It's just one game. But the chemistry, because Michael Thomas just got his long-term deal, right? The chemistry between Thomas and Teddy, that's important. The chemistry between Teddy and this line protecting him, that's important. And also Jared Cook got a multi-year deal. He might be back. Certainly he's a what-the-heck tight end this week. Even Ted Ginn got a long touchdown. So again, Teddy getting that downfield passing confidence behind this line. These elements are coming together. If Jalen Ramsey is still out, then that gives some advantage to New Orleans. And they have a defense now, by the way.
A defense now that's going to be focused on Leonard Fournette. And, of course, Gardner Minshew and DJ Chark is a thing. Will it continue to be a thing this week? Don't forget about D.D. Westbrook, who's got plenty of what the heck flex upside in this one. Bloom, just on a dynasty note or even regular next week note, I'm stacking Raekwon Armstead like everywhere because Leonard Fournette's getting a lot of work. What do we know about Leonard Fournette? He's always hurt. So again, want everyone to stay healthy forever, but just looking at this logically, like how can he handle that workload and stay healthy? Everyone's fired up about Gardner Minshew. Awesome. How do they do at home against a Saints team that's good on both sides of the ball?
And Minshew had some moments, gave up that defensive touchdown on the fumble. And again, if anything's wrong with Minshew, not really wrong. It's just that he's too calm, too comfortable. And his the alarm isn't quite going off to tell him he's in danger. And New Orleans is going to put a lot of pressure on him. Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport and so on. So Minshew is still that low quarterback 1, high quarterback 2, even in this very tough matchup. But maybe you might break ties against him with the way this defense is playing right now. It's a safe play with Fournette as usual, but not a ceiling game, not against this New Orleans defense. You're playing DJ Chark. After what happened last week, you don't want to leave him on the bench, but we'll see a lot of Marshawn Lattimore. So this should be a good game for him to see where he is, although Lattimore might be have some difficulty. You have a guy that's the way that Chark moves at his size with his speed. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch. Just keep a camera on there. What that tells me, Cecil, is it is a D.D. Westbrook game. Do not forget about D.D. Westbrook. Minshew seeing the field well, throwing the ball well, making good decisions. That tells me that Westbrook is going to rack up catches here against a lesser New Orleans corner. And, I'm also keeping in the background here because remember, Minshew is making the players in this pass offense viable. We saw James O'Shaughnessy. I think he tore his ACL. Terrible. O'Shaughnessy was trying to play really well. We'll see when Josh Oliver comes back. That's an interesting name to remember, maybe to pull a Chris Herndon this year. So this is, again, real fascinating games. Flip back and forth between on that early slate this week.
That is a wrap for part 1 of the Week 6 preview here on the Audible. Everyone stay tuned because, we'll be back with part 2 on Thursday morning around 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Follow Sigmund Bloom on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. The show is at the Audible. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying thanks for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing here on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. We appreciate all of you. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.